and welfare. And for those of you who don't know, Boston's first cat cafe is opening in July. And I'm actually going to be the cat behavior specialist for Boston's cat cafe. So I'm very excited about that. So thanks for having me, and I'd like to just start off a little bit with talking about the benefits of being a cage-free shelter, if you were interested in going in that direction. Many cats do not do well when they're in small, movement confining and movement restricting spaces, and some cats will often get more aggressive and will have behaviors that are negative because of feeling confined. Cats are very territorial creatures, and they're also very fastidious creatures. So meaning they like to be able to choose their own territory, but they also like to be, because of their instinct, not close to their food and to their water. So if a cat had its choice, he would like to be able to have his kind of living quarters in one place, and have his food in one place, and then have his litter even in another place. This is because instinctively they want to be able to cover up their tracks from predators and opponents, whether real or imagined, because clearly there aren't really any opponents here. But their instinct would want them to, pardon my French, poop and pee, not where they're sitting and relaxing and not where their food is. So in a cage environment, since you're kind of going against the cat's natural instincts, it can cause them to have aggression, because then they feel vulnerable and they want to protect themselves. So oftentimes people will find cats who are in cages will get cage aggression or fear aggression or redirected aggression, and these are all things that happen when you're in a cage. So people often like cage shelters because they feel they can have more cats in the shelter. However, studies have shown that in a cage-free shelter, the adoption rate and turnover is quicker, so that actually kind of mediates that concern. So when people can sit and interact and play with the cats, it actually leads to quicker adoptions. So playing with the cats. To me, as a cat behaviorist, interactive play therapy with a fishing pole type toy is probably the most effective and important way for a human to bond with a cat. Interactive play is a very powerful contributor to the cat-human bond. So in a cage-free environment, something that I would encourage volunteers to do is to use fishing pole type toys such as the cat dancer or the bird, those are some popular ones, and play interactively with the cat. When the cat is getting the captures and the person is involved in this play, the cat is getting all those great feelings and natural feelings of being a hunter, king of his castle, catching his prey, and all these great feelings get associated with you. So this is why having the cats be able to be outwardly participating in this play frequently helps cats bond to humans, helps cats get used to different kinds of people, helps cats build trust, and they feel better about themselves. And when all of these things happen, their behavior is better, the cats are happier, and the adoptions happen quicker. So this is like such a beautiful room, and if you were to go cage-free, what I would recommend is maybe putting in some floor-to-ceiling pens. So when you put in a floor-to-ceiling pen, you solve that worry of, well, what's going to happen with all these cats out? And you know, there's the alpha cats and there's the shy cats. So with floor-to-ceiling pens, you can group the cats according to personality, but floor-to-ceiling pens are not movement confining or restricting. So you solve that issue of letting the cats roam free, but providing some type of protection and segregation within the cats, how it might be needed. The other thing is with a floor-to-ceiling pen, while having those separations and being able to kind of, provide a middle ground with going from cages and having lots of cats to, perhaps maybe fewer because you're cage-free. But people can go in and sit with the cats that way. And when people can go in and sit on the floor and be with the cat that really enhances adoption efficiency. Because you guys want to be efficient. You want cats in and cats out. And when people can sit next to the cats, people can play with the cats, that is just really, really helps with your adoption rate. But also that means all during the day, the volunteers are always with the cats as they're out. And so that really helps with the adoption rate as well. The more interaction and positive interactions the cats can have at all times with people, the quicker you're going to get those cats adopted. So I'm not quite sure like how you work your volunteer program and if you feel like you have enough volunteers to interactively play with cats, but I know oftentimes that's what I hear, not enough time, not enough volunteers. Some suggestions for that is almost every school requires community service credits. Yes, I see you nodding your head. See, so exhibit A. So getting kids involved in using your shelter as a community service vehicle would be a great way to go. First of all, I can tell you that young people who learn about cats will grow up to be cat lovers and will not be cat abusers, and would identify and know cat abuse when they see it. So by giving young people the opportunity to work with cats, we kind of actually work at a bigger level as well. But in your case, to have teenagers who are responsible come in and do interactive play with your cats, you can get a whole group of volunteers from schools, high schools, middle schools, private schools, churches, community groups. Many of these things have community service as a requirement. So that's a whole group that you can tap into that maybe is underutilized at this time. The other thing that you can do is services like Volunteer Match, which matches up volunteers with organizations who need volunteers. So I know time and people is always a concern, but I would suggest kind of broadening the base of where you get volunteers from and looking for young people to get involved. Many young people who get involved stay involved as well. And parents support what their children do, so sometimes you get a 2-for-1 when a young person gets involved. And that's a way to get more people. And I'll tell you, there are a lot of jobs working in shelters that maybe a young person wouldn't jump to do, like scooping poop. But most people love to really play with cats. And there is no more beneficial activity for a cat than interactive play therapy. And if people are interested, I can go into more detail and write it down for anybody what I mean by interactive play therapy. But there really is a proper way to play with a cat, to have that cat bond with you. So that's kind of like my brief overview of how I really see that you could. I think this is like such a beautiful shelter, and it's so well maintained, and it's bright, it's airy. I mean, I can see if you had cat trees in front of those windows and window perches. Oh my God, you have like the happiest cats in the world.
It is cage-free on Mondays.
That's a very good start.
That's in the cage around this.
I think that's an excellent start.
That's a good idea. What about a cat that's very feral, very aggressive? They have to be in a cage, right? They're very feral until they get.
Well,
what would you do about that? A
so
very aggressive cat, a very feral.
no, that's a good
But you
question.
can't.
I would suggest
That you can't handle, very well, easily.
Do you guys get in a lot of very feral cats?
They do traffic.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's a good question. You could probably delineate a room for the cats who are more feral. I would actually suggest and because they're going to need to get used to people, but you don't want them into regular adoption. I would actually recommend large crates for those cats, because that if you can kind of sit with them and use that as a beginning point.
On the floor,
yeah, that often helps. But I mean, when I'm talking cage free, I'm largely meaning your adoptable cats.
Right.
And is there a continuum? Absolutely. Might you sometimes need to have a really feral cat separated in a crate, play with them, work with them, you know, counter conditioning, desensitization, everything you need to get him from point A to point B. When he's ready, he can come into that and maybe in a pond with,
That's what they do, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, so that's perfect. Except it would be great if this was eventually, you know, without the cages, I think would really up your adoption rate, and I think you could really bring in so many young people as part of the community. Like I was saying, there are a lot of jobs that kids don't like to do, but most kids would really have fun playing with a cat, and I can't even tell you how important that is. And you have so many opportunities for cats to look out windows. It's so beautiful and bright and sunny. I'd love to see like multi-tiered cat perches in front of these windows. And the benefit of those kinds of cat trees is if you have a high status cat or a lower status cat, they'll use that as a way to communicate their status to each other. So plenty of vertical opportunity for vertical space. We as people tend to think horizontally, but cats live in a very vertical world. So putting up those vertical spaces, maybe even shelving along the wall, you'll be surprised at how something as minor as that one accommodation will allow the cats to work out the difficulties on their own by using vertical space. If I know some people are worried about getting the cats to the vets, one thing that I suggest is leaving a few carriers out at all time with the doors open, so the cats don't associate cat carriers with just a traveling prison only to the vet. If it's there all the time, and maybe there's some food in their retreat, they kind of get used to it as it's something there. That makes it easy to get the cats into the carriers. And I am planning actually of putting, this is just a very brief overview, of putting everything into writing for everybody so you can look at it and think about it and digest it. But tonight was just kind of for me to meet everybody here and for you to kind of hear a little bit about what I do and just to kind of give you a brief overview. But if anyone has any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. If anybody wants my card or my email, if you leave here in a half an hour later, like, oh, I wish I asked her that, you can email me too. So I'm happy to pass out my contact information.
What about putting up like a pole and wrapping it with a rope so that they can shine on?
Yeah, all that kind of stuff is great, you know, and you have so much weight, you have so much room to make use of it that, you know, if this was a teeny tiny room and you're gonna really go from having so many cats to less cats, but it's not, it's a big room, there's a lot of, up in this, you know, you have a lot of places for cats to.
We put a shelf around the room. where they
Yeah,
can
a
climb
lot of
up.
shelters, we do that, we just put shelving right around the room and they have like a catwalk,
Mhm.
and they love that, yeah.
What kind of litter boxes in these pens that you're suggesting? You would have probably one per cat plus.
Yeah, I mean, you want to have at least how many litter boxes you have cats,
Right.
and then a couple of extra.
But what if one cat has a problem and you don't know which cat it is because they're all together? Is that hard to determine which cat maybe has a?
Yeah, we have, sometimes a cat will get sick, and that's how we detect by checking the litter
Checking the
box.
litter box. So, you know, if they're in pods and there's, you know, 3 or 4 cats in a pod, it would be easy for you to figure that out. Just, you know, you could just
Isolate.
write those cats in.
Although, we had a cat that was locked, and what's the term?
Yeah, urinary block.
And
He was
yeah.
locked and died, and we didn't apparently notice it at the
Uh-huh.
time. And I'm just worried that in a multi-cat situation, if you had a cat that was having a problem, we wouldn't probably know that it had a problem.
So do you, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think from the research I've done about that problem, a lot of times it's if they don't move, that contributes, lack of just moving around. So if they move more and they're less stressed,
Right.
then you would have less disease, which would mean lower battles too.
One of the
They
main,
check the litter boxes every day, that's why, right, the volunteers
Usually
check them.
there's 2 or 3 or 4, you
Yeah.
don't know which.
Right now, it's just like.
yeah, one of the main causes of that type of problem is stress, so you would eliminate that. But the other thing is, I'm assuming the cats are fully vetted when they come in, right?
Well, after they come in, yes.
Right,
Yes.
so they're coming in healthy, so I think they would be healthier, because they wouldn't be so stressed out.
Mhm.
And I also think that the time they're here would be much less, so it might be a problem that resolved itself just because of the other things that you have in place. But do you have a vet who makes rounds?
No.
Or do you have a vet tech who makes rounds?
Yes.
So I think too, just kind of basic rounds and looking at the cats and what they're eating and checking the cats would kind of, would kind of solve that problem. But they would be here less, so they'd be vetted when they come, they'd be less stressed, they'd be here less time, and then they're home.
Can you describe these pods? What do you mean by,
Okay.
yeah, when you say a pod, what do you
So I, like, you know, typical floor to ceiling wiring or fence material, cage material.
To separate the room into sections.
Exactly, yeah. And a lot of shelters do floor to ceiling. But your ceiling is so high, you probably wouldn't even have to go all the way out. And you can configure it any way you want. And you could have kind of a chain link going down the middle and separating it this way. And you could have, you know, 2 or 3 cats sharing, you know, a run or a pen, for lack of a better term. And they would be much more comfortable because they would be free roaming and people can sit. Who wants to get on the cat? People can sit, you know, in with the cats, which again decreases stress. They're used to people, they get more attention, they get more love, they get more affection. It's just easier to interact with a cat when there's not bars.
And they don't, they feel less threatened. Like
Right,
I know, for
versus-
example, Faye's or Tiny in there, if you open up the cage, first thing they might hiss at you, but if you would just sit on the floor, they would probably come up to you.
Right, well, the reason they
So
hiss
it's
is
a
because they feel vulnerable and they see they have no means of escape. But
Right.
that, they don't have that in a large pen or a large area. And sometimes what we do too is we put little hiding tunnels and stuff in there so they can have a place to
Is
hang
there a
out.
website that you can go to look up pens and whatever?
Oh, yeah. Somebody just remind me, because I'm old, I'll forget by the time I get home, like, just remind me that you want that information and I'll get it to you. Yeah.
I mean, I watched My Cat from Hell a lot. This is a program.
Yes.
And he went to a shelter that was caged and redesigned the whole thing, and it was really interesting, and they had seats in the middle and all sorts of
Yeah,
places for
yeah.
kids to go in. And it really, of course, helps a lot.
It does help a lot.
They
It's-
built
it's-
the car, they built it.
I don't know, you probably can buy odds and
You
ends.
buy-
Oh, you can buy
You can
those. Oh, yeah.
Well, you could build them if you had an idea.
I mean, if you have people who are handy and volunteers, this would be a great Boy Scout activity. Boy Scouts, Eagle Scout project, I mean, the Eagle Scouts, they're always looking for projects. I mean, we have some volunteers who are handy and carpenters, and they did a lot of it for us. We didn't. So perhaps you could,
Everybody turns and looks their breath.
yeah. I mean, we have volunteers who do a lot of these projects with the different shelters that they go to. They use, like, you know, Boy Scouts, Community Scouts, somebody's a volunteer who's a carpenter or a handy person.
Is there a rule of thumb, number of cats per square foot?
There is, and remind me, I did that for you too. Yeah.
There's a troop in Dudley that has a lot of Boy Scouts and they're always looking.
Yes.
Those Eagle projects,
Yeah.
the big projects,
They
too,
have-
they take on a lot. With my
Right.
son, they took on a lot. They redid a whole inside room of the farmhouse.
Exactly.
They take on
This would
big
be a
stuff.
great Eagle Scout project.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah,
They would be-
it would be a great Eagle Scout project.
Well, Bay Cat does a lot of that kind of stuff.
That stuff.
Yes.
In the meantime, is there anything we can do with the cages that we have right now that would,
In the meantime, just if you can give your cats opportunities, you know, maybe besides just on Mondays to be out of the cages. When they are out, you can really engage and interact with like therapy with the cats. To build their confidence and make them feel happier and more confident. And not super freaked out when they are in the cage, apply the videos.
okay.
And I can write out what I mean by that too, if you want to print it out and have it for your volunteers, I can do that too. And we'll have it on tape, so if I forget, not this either. All right, well, thank you so much for having me, and like I said, if you come up with other questions, let me know. I brought cards with me, so if anyone wants a card, I'm happy to.
This one's strong.
So are you going to, when you do have the plan completed, are you going to forward it to the board or Jane is she's the treasurer. I
So
don't know
you
if
let
that
me,
is-
I'll let you know when it's done, you just tell me who you think I should forward it to, and I'll forward it away.
There's our president.
And if, you know, if going forward, like, I can't even tell you, and my husband will corroborate this, saving cats is like my mission in life. That's really all I want to do in life, and I really mean it. So, I mean, I want to stroll 3.5 hours each way to save 5 cats who are going to be put to sleep from a hoarding situation up in Long Island. So I'm a nutcase, and I really admit it. Crazy cat lady, you know.
That's all of us, that's all of us.
I'm talking to everyone who can relate. So if you would like going forward for me to stay involved in some type of advisory position, or I'm 100% happy with doing that. This doesn't have to be a one-time thing. So I'm happy to come back, I'm happy to help, I'm happy to talk via Skype and stuff live, and I'm happy to work with I should say this, I'm a retired special ed teacher, so I'm also happy to work with like Boy Scouts and kids in community groups, because that's something that I can do as well. So if you kind of want a little education program piece of it to get the kids in here and learn about animal welfare and animal welfare topics, let me know. I'm happy to help.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.